Tom, Brian, son, father, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's talk about, first of all, the fact that you are currently leading the team challenge. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. By quite a way, I think. I'm not sure by how many points, but yeah.
We've had a lot of luck this year, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Unlike other years, I think we had quite a few problems last year.
We run as a team because it's more fun.
And we share race 3, don't we?
Yeah,
so
we get to share race 3, so
that's quite exciting because we're cheering for each other, aren't we?
yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. How do you work out who drives in which race, and how does that all figure
That
out?
was obvious.
No, come on.
I thought the Harry Potter drive like a wizard glasses and give it all away. Well, there's a bit of a strategy because we have to carry some weight. So if Tom drives first, we don't have to carry it. So that's how we worked it out this year. You go first. It helps me with my starts because
I get the car warming qualifying for you as well.
Yeah. So that's the strategy. Weight.
Coming up now, race number 2 of the weekend, another 20-minute sprint. This time it's Brian Harvey behind the wheel of car number 64 for the team challenge.
Thanks, Michelle. Let's look at the grid for race number 2 of the weekend. Once more, Bradley Smith starts from pole, and again alongside him on the front row of the grid is Jack Lang. Row 2 of the grid, Oliver Barker and Steve Burgess, with Brian Caldwell this time on row number 3 and Christian Jeffrey alongside. Row 4, Spencer Bourne and Mark Crader, and it's Stuart Maloney and Richard Baxter that line up on row number 5 of the grid. Well, when the lights went out in race 1, Bradley Smith from pole went to 4th. Let's see what he might be able to do in race number 2. He'll be hoping for better things. Lights are on, lights go out, which they do now. Good start from both front row men, Bradley Smith and Jack Lang well away. A great start from the 8th row of the grid. Car number 57 coming up the inside. That is Brian Murphy looking to squeeze his way through. A fantastic start for the man from the northeast, but it's Jack Lang that leads as they head through turn 1 for the first time. It was Bradley Smith who was slotting himself through into second place. Onto the brakes and in towards the Dean hairpin. Contact by the look of things. Oliver Barker is tagged by Christian Jeffrey, because Christian Jeffrey, I think, was tagged by Spencer Bourne. Other cars having to take to the grass in avoidance include Konstantin Gukiev, Jack Manchester, John Caldwell, Elliot Goodman, Richard Baxter, all caught out in that as well, but no such worries for Jack Lang, who leads the race with Bradley Smith in second position as the dust still settles at the Dean hairpin, and Steve Burgess is there in 3rd place. So the top 3 heading their way out of Piff Paff. In 4th place, that is John Caldwell that's there in 4th place, and well, looks as though it's retirement unfortunately for Spencer Bourne. He was hoping for good things this weekend. It all gone to plan in race 1, but it's all come rather unravelled in race 2 of the weekend. Up towards a Tarzan hairpin for the first time. The field thread their way, trying to dive up the inside and gain a place there. That's number 86, Mark Maloney, up the inside of John McLeod on the way in towards Tarzan. They're going to be side by side by the look of things on the way out as they head down the Skull Straight. There's almost a little bit of contact between the two of them, but Mark Maloney has managed to hang on to the place from 17th on the grid. Mark Maloney picking the pocket of the 13th place starter John McLeod as they head over the start finish line. Jack Lang just weaving from side to side to see whether he might be able to build a bit more temperature into the controlled Dunlop slick tyres that all of the cars run, but everybody safely through and over the start finish line. A rather battered looking car further down through the order. Looks as though it's Christian Jeffrey with damage to the front end of his car. His was one of those that was caught out a lap ago when they headed into this braking area now up at the Dean hairpin, where there are still localised yellow flags at the moment. I suspect that will be because they're still dragging Spencer Bourne's car out of harm's way as things currently stand. Elsewhere down through the order, still the early battles going on. Other cars, of course, that were involved in that first corner skirmish having to work their way back through the field. Here is number 15, Jack Manchester, the light blue car, fighting away with John McLeod. They'll be scrolling over what is 8th and 9th positions in the early stages of this one, and will be making their way, here they come, out of Piff Paff onto the Steel Straight and up towards Graceland's Corner. Through goes Dominic Jackson. He is still fighting away with Oliver Barker. Oliver was delayed at that skirmish at the Dean hairpin and couldn't quite pick the pocket of the man from Lincolnshire that time through, so it's still the black car just ahead of number 22 as Oliver Barker looks to try and make further progress up through the order following his delay. Onto the brakes at the end of the Skull Straight through the Brook chicane towards the completion very shortly of another lap as they climb back onto the bank section of the circuit at turn 4 at the Oval Circuit at Rockingham. So over the start-finish side they will go. Dominic Jackson still having to look in his mirrors to see where Oliver Barker is going. Oliver was hugely keen following his disappointment in race number 1, having retired whilst leading with mechanical woes, to try and look to get himself right back into contention in this one. Onto the brakes, through the hairpin at Dean once again they'll thread their way. Dominic Jackson making his debut in this championship this season, hanging on to the advantage just over the number 22 car of Oliver Barker as they head out of Yentwood and up towards Chapman Curve once more. From there they turn right and start to disappear out onto the far reaches of the circuit through the sweeping left-hander at Piff Path, whilst all of the time this car here, number 2, Jack Lang, leads the race from Bradley Smith, safely through Graceland's corner, onto the brakes at Tarzan. The single-seater convertee, Jack Lang, former BRDC Formula 3 competitor, also a Formula Jedi champion, Jack Lang, still managing to keep at bay the aspirations of Bradley Smith. And Bradley getting ever closer to him by the look of things, so the gap between first and second beginning to close up. For the moment they're pulling away from the car that still lies there in the third position as they thread their way over the start-finish line. There is Christian Jeffrey, right, so there is his car. Damage, as you can see, to the front end of the number 61 car. His car was caught at the back, I think, by Spencer Bourne and then pushed into the car ahead. It was all just very tight. There was no malice or poor driving, it was just drivers, I think, getting caught out as some broke earlier than others, and it was a very full field of cars. Here is the squabble for the lead of the race. Jack Lang still managing to keep at bay, or at least at arm's length, Bradley Smith. They turn their way through Yentwood and start to accelerate briefly uphill towards Chapman Curve. Pretty much nose to tail now for the lead of the race. The Mectec engineered car of what is Bradley Smith sitting there in second place, and now right on the coattails of Jack Lang, raises the dust so hard as he's trying on the exit of Piff Path corner. And as they now turn their way through Gracelands, now that has unfortunately just dropped him that extra half a car length back or so. This leading pair well and truly up the road from Steve Burgess, who still lies there in what is third place at the moment, the champion from last year, the wheel of his blue car with its yellow flashes. You could just see him in the background of the shot. Leading pair starting to make good their escape. Of course, if they start to squabble, though, they may well hold each other up, which could well possibly allow Steve Burgess to close in. For the moment, though, Steve Burgess has got his hands rather full of Stuart Maloney. There is the rather battered car of Christian Jeffrey. Barry Liversidge having to look to try and squeeze his way up the inside and has been able to go through. Yep, so Christian Jeffries with the battered car now losing a place to number 6, Barry Liversidge. Barry was a retiree from race number 1 of the weekend and is now starting to make a little bit of progress, and the battered car of Christian Jeffries will come under pressure before too much longer from Konstantin Kukiev, another driver that was delayed at that incident at the beginning of the race. He's looking to try and thread his way through the order. Here they come over the start-finish line. Barry Liversidge under pressure from the battered car as they turn their way through turn 1. That's not going to be helping the aerodynamics of Christian Jeffries' car. It's going to be slowing him down on the straights. It's going to put more load through the tyres on the corner with the holes to the bodywork, not just on that front left-hand side, but there's a big gaping hole in the centre of the bodywork as well. So up towards Yentwood they work their way, the man from the Caribbean still hounding the cars around him at this stage. Barry Liversidge looking to try and hang on to the newly gained place, and well, for Christian Jeffries in that difficult position, the unenviable position of having to attack and defend at exactly the same time. Here's Steve Burgess still in third place, trying to keep at bay Brian Cordwell. At the moment it is still the reigning champion, just ahead of the 66 Racing entered machine. And as they head out of turn 4 at Rockingham back onto the oval, they will continue their battle. Barry Liversidge gains another place there, so another place gained by Barry Liversidge. Up the inside of Adrian Watt, he was able to work his way on that occasion. So the number 6, the all-red car of Barry Liversidge, that's 2 places gained over the course of the last couple of laps. The first past the battered car of Christian Jeffrey, the next past Adrian Watt. So these cars may well be squabbling away for what are places down towards the mid-teens, but a fantastic fight that they are all still having, and pretty much inseparable as well. So through they go. The white car of Konstantin Kukiev at the tail end of that little quartet of cars at the moment. Is he going to have an opportunity to squeeze his way through past Christian Jeffries? A little bit quicker coming out of turn 4 into the brakes at the Dean hairpin. No, can't quite make it stick. So Christian Jeffrey still the meat in the sandwich. He's got Adrian Watt directly ahead of him. He's got Konstantin Kukiev directly behind him. And having gone to the front of the pack, the all-red car of Barry Liversidge is starting to disappear up the road now. So Through Chapman Curve they'll go. The squabble for the lead of the race is on. Jack Lang having to really defend from a charging Bradley Smith as they came into the Brook chicane on that occasion. So Jack Lang looking, if he can, to try and hang on to the lead of the race. Of course, he claimed victory in race 1 of the weekend here at Rockingham, and you could see him looking in his mirrors, trying to see exactly where Bradley Smith is. Bradley, a 3 times former champion, including, of course, European Radical champion, but at the moment he's having to give second best to last year's Radical Challenge champion, that being Jack Lang. Bradley Smith tries to close up again as they head into the braking area for Dean. Again, it is still the orange car that comes out in the lead of the race, looking to try and make it 2 out of 2 if he can. Whereas for Bradley Smith, he's trying to make amends following his retirement in race 1 of the weekend. Out of Yentwood, through Chapman Curve, nose to tail still for the lead of the race as they thread their way through Piff Paff, and will start to head on to the very short steel straight. And this time it looks so Jack Lang has responded to the pressure of Bradley Smith and is starting to pull away again. It's amazing how this gap, it's a bit like on a piece of elastic, it closes up for a couple of corners, then it sort of opens up again the next few corners through. But around the Rockingham circuit, the 1.94 mile international sports car circuit as we are this weekend, they are pretty evenly matched, this pair. And as they now thread their way up towards the conclusion of another lap, it's just the Brook chicane to go through turn 4 and over the start-finish line, and it's another lap then completed by Jack Lang, and another lap on which again, towards the end of the lap, that's where Bradley Smith seems to have the quicker car. The first part of the lap, Jack Lang, I think, looks the far more comfortable of the two, and the second part of the lap, it's Bradley Smith that comes to the fore. Barry Liversidge, his charge continues, doesn't it, at the wheel of number 6. He is now hot on the heels of the black and Dayglow car of Peter Tyler, and it looks as though he's going to try and draw himself alongside coming out of Tarzan. Couldn't quite manage to do so. Peter Tyler looking to try and hang on to the place. Barry Liversidge opting not to have a go under braking. Looks as though also the white car of Konstantin Gukiev, who was at the tail end of the field, has now been able to get through ahead of Christian Jeffries. So not unsurprisingly, the car with the damage now has lost a further place. Over the start-finish stand now come, and Konstantin Gukiev at the wheel of car number 9, now looking to try and pull a move on the black, red and white car just ahead of him, that being number 55, Adrian Watt. Couldn't do it as they head through turn 1, but has got the inside line this time, heading down in towards the Dean chicane. Is he brave enough on the brakes? Yes is the answer. Up the inside he goes. Another place gained by the driver, Konstantin Gukiev. Gains the place. Needs to be careful though, just ran wide a little bit coming out of the corner. Still has the inside line for Yentwood, and does indeed, finally get the job done. So might have taken a couple of corners, but Konstantin Gukiev is now ahead of Adrian Watt, and that is going to put him up into, I think that's 15th position now. Great little fight it may well be amongst the mid-teens, and a good little fight still at the front, because Jack Lang is just not getting away from Bradley Smith. Through they go, another lap completed, and as they now turn their way out of turn 1, Jack Lang is just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Again, Bradley Smith much better on the brakes heading in towards the Dean hairpin. But he's just coming from too far back. The door was already closing, so he knew that all he could do was close the deficit rather than mount a challenge up the inside. So still the order remains the same. Still the gap is pretty much negligible between first and second place as they head up towards Piff Paff yet again. And then from there, the next overtaking opportunity is probably on the brakes at Tarzan. So out of Piff Paff, onto the steel straight they'll go. No real overtaking opportunity at Gracelands, but Bradley Smith can look to try and close the gap a bit if he wishes. They exit Gracelands and now onto the brakes at Tarzan. Is this an opportunity? No, Bradley Smith is just too far back as they turn their way through the corner once more. So we ride on board with the race leader. Up through the gears, down the school straight, onto the brakes as they turn their way through the Brook chicane. Great onboard shots from Jack Lang in the lead of the race. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see exactly how close Bradley Smith was in his mirrors, and again towards the tail end of the lap, Bradley Smith was closing up once more. Here is a battle further down through the order. This is the car of Brian Harvey, under attack from Richard Baxter, who's looking for the inside line as they head towards Tarzan. Richard Baxter does grab the inside line to take the place away from the number 64 car. Richard Baxter, another one of those that was delayed again with nose to tail for the lead of the race, and again it's on the brakes at Dean Corner, where Bradley Smith really seems to have a very good car underneath him, but time is running out. He needs to try and scratch his head, and if he's got anything left in the tank, just drive the wheels off the number 21 car. He's thrown pretty much at it, including the kitchen sink, but as yet Jack Lang has not yielded to the pressure of the 3 times Radical champion Bradley Smith, who is looking as though he might have to settle for second. Konstantin Gukiev, car number 9, has again gained places. He's now at the front of that little quartet of cars, so he has been going superbly well, picking them off. He's picked off Adrian Watt, who has now got himself ahead of Barry Liversidge. So Barry Liversidge, who had got to the front of that little pack, is now, by the look of things, in danger of dropping to the back end of it again. The rather second-hand looking car of Christian Jeffrey still going. Oh right, no smoke, and it looks as though it may well be retirement for him, and retirement for Steve Burgess as well, who was running in what was third position. So the reigning champion Steve Burgess retires the car on the run up towards the Tarzan hairpin as Jack Lang heads over the start-finish line and on to what is now his last lap of the race. Bradley Smith still with him in second position, and now up to third will come the Bajan driver, which will be Stuart Maloney, who we saw on the podium in race number 1. He will now be up into what will be third position. This is number 64. That is Brian Harvey fighting away with John Cordwell. The two of those still very much together. They're going to be squabbling over 13th and 14th positions as they head onto their final lap of the race. And our race leaders are now halfway round the final lap of the race. Jack Lang still under pressure from Bradley Smith, who still cannot as yet find a way through, and time is running out for Bradley Smith. He claimed treble wins at Silverstone last time out. Well, at the moment it looks as though Jack Lang is going to chalk 2 in the book for this weekend here at Rockingham to get his weekend off to the best possible start, the championship leader. Through the right-hander they go, past the stricken car of last year's champion Steve Burgess, and now there's really just one more opportunity to overtake for Bradley Smith, and it is going to be covered off by Jack Lang as he comes into the braking area for the Brook chicane. It's the charge to the flag that might sort this one out. Lock brakes on the unloaded wheel from Bradley Smith, so hard is he trying, but the charge to the flag is going to decide who's going to win this second race of the weekend here at Rockingham. And Jack Lang gets a good exit coming out of turn 4 over the start finish line. Jack Lang, it's fair to say, looks pleased with that one. He comes through and claims the victory in the second race of the weekend. Round 8 of the championship from Bradley Smith in second place. Third place will go the way of Stuart Maloney. Fourth place will be the blue car of Oliver Barker, and it looks as though it's going to be Dominic Jackson who finishes in 5th position. Other cars squabbling through the order. This is 8th and 9th place. Mark Maloney and Mark Crader come through, having had a great battle towards the tail end of the top 10. Confirmation of the results then. It's the second win of the weekend for Jack Lang, with Bradley Smith this time in second place, and Stuart Maloney again makes the podium in third place. Oliver Barker was 4th, Brian Cordwell was in 5th place, and it's Dominic Jackson who completes the top 6 ahead of Jack Manchester, Mark Maloney, Mark Crader, and completing the top 10 was John McLeod. Top 3 drivers on the podium. Let's hear from the winners.
We had a good start again, and we got into the lead of the race. The car felt a lot better, so we were able to go a bit quicker, I think. And then we just had Bradley behind us the whole time. We were faster in the critical sections than he was, so he never got too close to make a move. When he did, I think I covered him off quite well. But yeah, I'm happy with the result. I'm happy with the points.
It's a tough circuit in an aero car. Yeah, just didn't get the best of getaways, and he got around me, and yeah, tried to close the gap, but just couldn't quite get close enough.
But you must be much happier with that than obviously race 1.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously race 1 was quite unfortunate, but to be back on the podium in 2 is good. So we'll just have to try and see if we can have a good third race.
I really didn't have much racing within the race. I settled in. I saw that Brian had a 10-second penalty because it was posted on the start-finish line. So I just tried to maintain enough gap that I knew it was inevitable at that stage. So it went well.
Okay, so you've got the endurance to come now. That's the sprints out of the way. How do you feel about in the endurance side of things?
I think the endurance should go well. The car feels good throughout the entire race. It's really not falling off too badly towards the end of the sprint. So I think we should have a good car for the enduro.
Another great result for Team Lang there. So that's the 2 20-minute races done, the sprint races. But we've also got a 40-minute endurance race coming up next. Now that includes a pit stop even for the single driver cars. So let's see if it switches things up.